But anyway, so I'm going to start with the onion bhaji. So, as my mother said, these are traditional Punjabi onion bhajis. So I know you would obviously expect there to be onion in them, but actually the Punjabi versions have potato as well. So it just adds a little bit more bite to them, a little bit more flavour. So I'm going to make these canapé size for you today so that you can all try some. We can just pass them around once they're fried so you can have a little taste. But most people are usually surprised at that element. So I'm just going to cut them now. I've just got a plaster on this finger, so I've got a glove on now. I'm just going to cut them quite finely, and you'll notice that I haven't actually peeled them. They're washed, but all of the nutrients in the potato lie just under the skin. So if you peel the skin, you're just taking off all those nutrients. And actually adds a nice little bit of texture. You know, a little bit like when you have chips that have the skin still left on. It's really tasty. So I'm just going to cut these not too thick so that they cook in the frying time. We've got a lovely induction hob waiting there with the oil for me to fry them on later. Has anybody given these a go at making these before? Hands up, no? I'm sure you've all eaten them though.
There's a big difference in the cooking because obviously the size of India, it's like when you refer to India, it's like referring to Europe.
Yeah.
So you can sort of see the difference between a Spaniard and say someone from Scandinavia. It's the same difference. We're from the north of India, which is Punjab. And some people get confused as well when we say we're Punjabi and we're Indian, because Punjab was the country that was, the area that was, after partition, Pakistan was created out of Punjab, and then the Muslims that were in the Indian side all had to flee across to the Pakistani side, and vice versa, the Hindus and Sikhs came across. So we are in the side of Punjab that remained as India. Which is why we're Punjabi and Indian. Some people then get confused, don't they, Sophia?
We do, yeah. Some people are not sure if we're Pakistani side or if we're the Indian side, but our family's the Indian side. And also the other thing that's interesting to note as well is the name Punjab actually means land of 5 rivers. So Banj is the word for 5, Ab is the word for river. And when it was partitioned, 3 of those rivers went into the Pakistani side and 2 remained in India. And what's really funny is we're based in Salisbury, so we're about 15 minutes away, and it has 5 rivers running through. So it's literally like we're in the English version of Punjab.
Oh my goodness, I just thought we are living in, we're in 5 rivers, which means Punjab.
Yeah.
How bizarre.
And it's farmland, so it's literally like...
Yeah, Wiltshire is very like that. Farmland, crops, rural. It's really funny, isn't it?
I understand you have cool curries and you have hot curries. And the northern would be cool curries?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I was saying about the different areas. So in the south of India, it's going to be things like coconut, more fish, because it's towards the sea. It's a different type of cooking. And then you've sort of got the central areas of India. And the area that we come from, it's small crop-based wheat. Yeah. So the type of food that you would say is Punjabi would be tandoori chicken, tikka chicken is Punjabi dish. The breads are naan and chapati, paratha. I don't know if you say it like that. Paratha, I think I've heard people saying. And stuffed paratha. And so paratha is how you say it. And puri, which is like a fried bread. So those are all from the Punjab area. We're not really rice, maybe basmati rice occasionally, but most heavily based rice dishes are south of India.
And the other thing to notice as well, the use of spices. So in the south, they prefer to use spices that have a lot more heat to them, so they use things like mustard or peppercorns, whereas before Pakistan was formed, India bordered on Afghanistan, so we have more of a Persian, Afghani influence, so we'll use things like green cardamom, cumin seeds, more of the fragrant ones.
Yeah, so maybe that's what you mean by
yeah, so that's where that comes in as well, the history of...
And yeah, not as hot. Our food actually, you're going to
yours is. So I'm just going to cut the onion, so you'll notice that I've topped and tailed and peeled it, and the way that we cut is actually into our hands. So when you make this if you want to, you can try it. If you know your accent pro, maybe just cut it on the So I'll just show you the way that I do it. So basically, as long as you keep your thumb this side of the blade, you're not going to cut yourself. So I don't know if everybody can see that. Just keep your thumb that side.
Does that seem really bizarre to cut into your hands?
What do with other vegetables?
Cut everything into our hands. I must admit, we do use the word. We do now as well, but we go between the both. But if I was somewhere with family, I would just chop into my hands.
The reason for that is a lot of the kitchens in India, so this will be a difference to the showrooms as well, that we have on the door open.
Two opposite worlds here in kitchen.
The kitchens are built onto a courtyard, so the fourth wall is completely missing to allow for ventilation, and it's built so that the rain and the wind don't come inwards. and so a lot of the cooking is almost semi-outside. So you would chop into your hands from a hygiene perspective because you're not necessarily going to have an even work
There's no
surface.
worktop, there wouldn't have been originally a worktop. I mean, now it's all different now.
Yeah.
But we kind of still, I think you find this with people who've left several generations ago, because my parents were the first ones to come over here. It was quite a shock when they took me back, telling me, oh, this is that, and this is all traditional and that. And when I went back at 17, my father made me wear a sari to meet the daughter of his friend, who bounced out in jeans and a t-shirt. Because he was still 20 years behind. He was still remembering India as he left, and this has completely changed. Completely changed. So here I am, still chopping in my hands. They're probably looking at me thinking, what's wrong with her?
Although I think that is the way, though. When we first started this business, and one of the things that, from a food hygiene perspective, is an issue is rice, because the bacteria doesn't get killed at boiling point. And we were talking to Mum's aunt, so my late grandmother's sister, and we were saying, what are we going to do about the rice, auntie? How are we going to do it? She went, oh, you get a rice cooker, it's fine. And we're like, hang on a minute, like you're 2 generations up, and she's got every gadget known to man. We're there like, let's do it the old-fashioned way. So I think it's always the way it goes, isn't it? So I'm just going to do the garlic, ginger and chilli now. You'll notice that I just got a regular house grater. What we always recommend when we sort of teach people to make a whole variety of dishes is garlic, ginger and chilli usually appear in every Indian dish known to man. And usually, I hate to say it, but when a woman gets married, she adjusts her cooking to what her husband likes. So if she marries a man who likes big chunks of garlic, ginger and chilli, the family will then have food that contains it like that. But my grandfather liked particularly not to taste a big chunk. The other thing as well is you get far more even distribution of flavour and heat as well, the finer you can get those ingredients. If you find chopping really difficult, trying to do it like that and get it really fine, just use the smallest side of a grater and then you will get it as fine as you need it, and it will distribute really evenly throughout your dish. So I'm just going to grate those really quickly. We're just going to move on to the spices now. So I'll run through what these spices are, because I think probably this one you'll all be familiar with, so I'll start with it first. Turmeric. I'm assuming everybody has this or has used it or knows of it. So just going to add half a teaspoon of that for some nice colour. Does anybody from looking at this think they know what this particular one is?
Well, obviously it's not what we think.
No. You never know what people's backgrounds are. A lot of people wouldn't know that I'm half Indian, so I hate to assume that anybody in the room wouldn't.
Dried coriander?
It's not dry coriander, but that is a good guess.
Curry leaves?
Not mint. No, not cardamom.
Basil?
No. It's probably one of the things you might not think of. It's actually dried fenugreek leaves.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Good for hearing.
So I don't know if anybody's ever had it before. The dried version is quite strong in flavour. We were preparing for a wedding the other day, and we had a new person assisting with the food prep. The moment I opened the jar, she said to me, "What have you got cooking? Have you left something on the hob?" I said, "No, absolutely not." And she said that the flavour's so strong. She almost thought that I had something cooking on the pan. This adds a lot of flavour. It's really good for you. The only thing to note is that when you have this in its fresh form rather than the dried form, it's like garlic, and then it comes out in your pores. And when we went to India for our last family holiday, the girl who looked after my great uncle's house, she was quite mischievous, and she made fresh fenugreek fried breads for us to have as our last meal. As we're en route to Sydney, we stank. And you can't get away from yourself. So it was just horrendous. But I mean, it's very good for you. And when you use it sparingly fresh, it adds a lovely flavour, and the dried flavour is beautiful as well. So I'm just going to add a pinch of that.
Oscar Pet Foods also put it in their fresh salad offer.
Health benefits. What you can do, what I normally recommend when we're teaching this to people, because some of these spices are harder to get hold of. The turmeric, you will probably get, obviously salt, you'll get garlic, ginger, chilli, you'll get. But that particular spice, and the next one that we're about to use in this, which I'll run through as well, I would actually recommend buying this online, and I would recommend using the Punjabi name, which is methi. and that's spelled M-A-T-H-I, methi.
Okay.
If you buy
Or
it
sometimes
online,
some places spell it M-E-T-H-I as well.
yeah. So if you if you buy it online, you'll get it from an Asian supplier. You'll get a much larger quantity at a fraction of the price. Whereas some of these spices you can get in some of the supermarkets, but you'll literally be paying like 100 times the price. So what's the best thing to do is if you can't remember any of the details afterwards, just type in Hindi word for fenugreek and it will come up, and then you can do it that way. So, and I would recommend that with any ingredients that are hard to find for any type of cookery. Look up the word in the other language on Google, type it in online, and then buy it through their shops because it's going to be so much cheaper.
I've definitely had methi tea.
Have you really?
Yeah, definitely. But I'm trying to think which country.
Yeah,
I don't think
that's
it was
interesting. Yeah, so yes, you can. But I would recommend don't get the seeds. If you look it up and it's seeds, get the dried leaves only. Don't get the seeds for this one because they're quite a different flavour. The powder is the seeds ground down. So yeah, just to watch out for that. Make sure it is the leaves, but it should come up. Yeah, just make sure you type in leaves, so fenugreek leaves or methi leaves, and then that will come up. So this one here, it's quite hard to see, but I don't know if anybody has an idea of what it might be. Is it cumin? No, it sort of does look a little bit like that from here. It's a lot smaller than cumin. I don't know if you can see there. No, this is called juan in Punjabi, and I think in English you call it lovage seeds, caraway seeds. So we're going to put some of these in. This is like pepper in that if you put a little bit, it really lifts the dish. If you get carried away, it's quite an overpowering flavour. So just a little bit here and there adds a real burst of flavour. But if you put too much, it can go a little overboard. So again, we're just going to do a pinch of that one, so some nice seeds running through. And then the final spice that we're going to put in is garam masala. This was actually the way the business started. This was our first product. So we still make this the traditional way by hand, and garam masala literally means hot mix. And every family's recipe can vary, again, because of usually what the dad or husband does to like his spices. Ours contains 7 spices, so you've got cumin seeds, coriander seeds, black and green cardamom, cinnamon, peppercorns and cloves in there as well. But some people may put nutmeg in, they may put chili flakes in, they might put dried ginger in. So the flavour can actually vary quite a lot if you think about how different all those spices are in taste and flavour. So just always look out whenever you're buying a garam masala. What I can do is pass this around, but if you see in the bowl, you can actually still see whole parts of the spices. If you ever buy spices and it's like a ready ground one for you and you can't see little bits of the whole spices, they've overground them and released all of the essential oils, which means when you put them in the pan and apply heat, the flavour's gone, most of it's gone. So you need it to not be like a dust, otherwise you won't get the full flavour out of them. So I've done half a teaspoon of that one. And I'm just going to do salt. So salt varies on the size of the potato. So if you have a real whopper, put more in. And if you have a bit of a smaller potato, do less. So I'm just going to do sort of a heaped half a teaspoon there because mine wasn't too big. The other thing to note as well is if you ever make a dish and you accidentally put too much salt in, just boil some potatoes separately in a pan and just add them into the cooked finished dish. Leave it overnight and then it will just soak up all that extra salt so the dish doesn't go to waste. Because that's quite easy to do sometimes. You accidentally just overdo it and then you think it's gone, but actually you can still salvage it. So I'm just going to give that little mix round. And then the flour that we're going to put in is gram flour, which is ground chickpeas. The other thing to note about onion bhajis, which is really good, is if you've ever got any guests coming over or you have family members or you yourselves have special dietary requirements, this particular starter is wheat-free, gluten-free, dairy-free, egg-free, nut-free. You can all have the same thing and no one would know that you're catering for a special dietary requirement. So it's always worth remembering that actually they're pretty good in that sense. Don't panic if someone says that they're a vegan, say, as the rise of the vegans, because this is vegan as well. So yeah, it's good to know. So
yeah, it works out well. If we're taking a booking for a pop-up restaurant and somebody will say, oh, but I'm gluten-free, and wait, don't worry.
Yeah, they flag up the last minute requirement.
Yeah, it never makes a difference, more or less. Apart from the bread, really, that's the only thing with it being wheat.
Yeah. So I'm just going to add the flour now and just mix this.
What is gram flour?
Chickpeas.
Chickpeas.
is,
So
definitely.
you know when you buy chickpeas not in a tin, but you buy them in the bag and they're dried, they just ground those down into a powder, and that's it. Really. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over to the beautiful hobbit